My name is Jonathan Ackerman, and I want to briefly introduce myself. I'm a tax attorney with a Master of Laws in Taxation from Georgetown University Law Center. I've been practicing for just over 25 years, and I've been working with a number of different exempt organizations, both public and private charities and other exempt organizations. And what I do is I help them in their creation and in their governance, in tax qualification issues and tax compliance issues. So let's start with a discussion of the purposes for creating an endowment fund. First, to provide a source of perpetual funding to support charitable purposes. To help ensure the long-term existence and stability by providing a stable funding source. To provide a vehicle for donors to make long-term donations through endowment gifts in order to leave their legacy. To provide a sound and reliable method of holding, managing, investing, and spending such funds over an extended period of time. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, to manage the risk and liability to the charity and its governing body, officers, and committees. So let's step back for a minute, and as background, let's talk a little bit about the three different types of endowments. There's a true endowment. That's where funds are permanently set aside by an agreement with the donor to generate income to the charity. They are also called permanently restricted funds. A temporary endowment is where the principal of the gifted funds is set aside and the income is used for a specified period of time. This can also be referred to as temporarily restricted funds. And the third type is a quasi endowment. And that's where funds are set aside for the long-term use of the charity as established by the board of directors by resolution, and also could be referred to as unrestricted assets. Let's also take another step back and even discuss whether an endowment is a good idea, because I think there are reasonable differences of opinion. Some arguments against creating an endowment may be you need immediate cash to fund your operational expenses. There's also a sense or a public perception that charities with large endowments are rich charities. You may believe that an endowment is too difficult to institute and manage, or an endowment may just not be consistent with your charitable mission or strategic plan. Now, here's some arguments for. There's been a paradigm shift. Because if you look 10 years ago, you had to deal with this public perception issue more. Because more recently, as asset values, government grants, and private foundation funding have all dropped, it's now viewed, the endowment is viewed as a source of fiscal responsibility. It shows a strong belief in the future of the charity. Now, remember also, some gifts will only come to you via a spending or use restriction, these donor-directed limitations. Also, endowed gifts can be perceived by donors as supporting a continued future annual gift from a donor. So if you have a donor who makes annual pledges or annual gifts, and they want to continue making those kinds of gifts even after they pass, an endowment is a perfect structure. It's also a matter of a charity's culture and perspective. Endowments can assist in focusing on the charity's long-term vision and how best to achieve that vision. And lastly, and don't forget, there are approximately $2.5 trillion in public charity endowments and $500 billion in private foundations. So in the big picture, one way to look at the maintenance of an endowment is it's easier to earn a dollar than to raise one.